Kurt Russell, who maintained his composure in the face of Hollywood's mayhem, was never a noise-induced symbol. He didn't need trophies to demonstrate his talent, he didn't make any big announcements, and he most definitely didn't need a marriage license to make a lifelong commitment to love. Nevertheless, that's the exact reason he rose to prominence. He never attempted to be a symbol at all, not because he was a celebrity. Kurt Russell seemed to live just outside the spotlight for almost 60 years in the arts. But he was memorable in his own modest way. Every character, from the Disney kid prodigy to the anti-hero Snake Plissken, the loving father figure Santa Claus, and Goldie Hawn's peaceful life companion, was a piece of the real man behind the camera. But what's hidden behind that kind grin and modest exterior? An unmarried love story that is stronger than most marriages, a baseball injury that once ended a career, or a silent anxiety as age and illness gradually take over. Why has Kurt Russell been able to endure it all? To be respected for the rest of your life without having to prove anything? And why does Hollywood still secretly admire this man who has never received an Oscar? Let's explore Kurt Russell's courageous and genuine life. A trip that defied expectations, remained loyal to itself, and left a legacy of peaceful principles upheld until the end rather than notoriety. Kurt Russell, whose full name is Kurt Vogel Russell, was born in Springfield, Massachusetts, on March 17, 1951, into a family that valued athletics and the arts. In addition to being a professional baseball player, his father, Bing Russell, was an actor best remembered for his work on Western television. Louise Julia Cohn, his mother, was a dancer. Kurt's early years were not encased in Hollywood glitz, but rather involved spending long days following his father from movie sets to baseball fields, where each line and swing taught him a new lesson: do your work with diligence or not at all. Later, the family relocated to the peaceful Californian suburb of Thousand Oaks, where the blonde youngster developed a strong love for acting and baseball. Kurt was as passionate about the sport as his father was. Prior to playing for a number of minor league teams under the California Angels system, he was a second baseman for his high school squad. The spotlight was never Kurt's goal as a teenager. The field, not the screen, was where his future lay. However, life doesn't always go as planned. Kurt's hopes of playing professional baseball were all but dashed when he tore his rotator cuff during a game. The suffering wasn't just bodily. The only dream he had ever really followed was dealt a straight hit. Kurt Russell, who was just in his 20s, returned to acting almost out of necessity when the injury ended his baseball career. However, he tackled it with a workmanlike attitude, seeing it as a real profession that required honesty and discipline, just like any other labor, rather than with the aim of stardom. Despite the lack of glitzy pictures and accolades, Kurt Russell's early years, his father's discipline, the heartache of sports, and his bravery in changing course after his first dream failed, helped to mold him into a man of immense depth, resiliency, and strength over the next 60 years. A man who discovered early on that you have to be true to yourself before you can survive in a world full of glitter. Few people know that Kurt Russell was no stranger to the limelight. At the age of 6, he made his Hollywood debut in the television series Sugarfoot in 1957. He went on to play parts in Gilligan's Island, The Virginia, The Man from UNLE, and The Fugitive. He had already established himself as one of the decade's most sought-after child actors by the early 1960s. Kurt Russell, then a teenager, became the studio's famous face for the following 10 years, when Walt Disney personally signed a 10-year deal with him in 1966. This was a significant turning point. Through movies like Boys, The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, Now You See Him, Now You Don't, Follow Me, and The Strongest Man in the World, Kurt Russell became Disney's golden boy, a happy, witty, likable character who embodied the purity of America after the war. In movie circles, one poignant and eerie fact has been circulating for years. Walt Disney is reported to have written his name, Kurt Russell, in the last hours of his life on a sheet of paper next to his hospital bed. Although the meaning of the memo is unknown, many saw it as evidence of the Disney mogul's strong faith in the young performer. Kurt Russell's early success, however, did not inspire a desire for stardom. At one point he declared, "I don't think of myself as a star. I'm just a guy who goes to work every day like any other regular man." Kurt Russell let go, and in a time when all the fresh talent was vying for attention as the next superstar, he showed no concern for the pandemonium going on around him. Russell's early career wasn't about rising to the top. Rather, it was a quiet process of self-defining, of shedding the image of a Disney child star, and of laying the groundwork for a more mature, layered approach to acting. He didn't have a lot of publicity, demands for lead roles or blockbuster contracts. Instead, he carefully picked his roles, sometimes small, sometimes surprising, but always characters that were genuinely interesting, complex, or had something worth exploring. The moment Kurt Russell would shed the youthful and innocent moniker to become one of the gritty, most memorable characters in American film during the 1980s, it was a silent prelude to the leap that would come. Just when everyone thought he would always be Disney's safe bet, he appeared with an eye patch, a cigarette, and the icy timeless line, "Call me Snake." Hollywood was taken aback. Kurt Russell had changed, and he started writing his own legend. In 1979, Kurt Russell played the part of Elvis Presley in John Carpenter's television biopic. Elvis and Hollywood took notice. The actor, who had previously played happy teen icons, now played a broken, haunted, and lonely Elvis. After receiving an Emmy nomination for the performance, Russell embarked on a completely new journey, transforming from the Disney character Kurt to Kurt Russell, the man of depth and shadow. 3 years later, he reteamed with Carpenter for Escape from New York, 1981, a gritty action movie that featured no superheroes but a ruthless, icy outlaw named Snake Plissken. With eye patch and all, nobody thought Kurt Russell would create such an anti-hero, but Snake became a cult icon right away. No one else could have developed that character, and no one else would have dared to play a leading role that you couldn't love but couldn't ignore either. Russell went even farther with Carpenter. He played MacReady, a pilot stuck in the snow, with nothing but suspicion and silence in The Thing 1982, which is considered by many to be one of the best horror movies ever made. He didn't try to prove anything in a world where no one could be trusted. He just survived by instinct, stillness, and a look in his eyes. In Little China, 1986, Tequila Sunrise, 1988, Tombstone, 1993, Stargate, 1994, Breakdown, 1997, Miracle, 2004. Each character was a world unto itself, from futuristic warriors to the coach who guided the U.S. hockey team to victory over the Soviets, from righteous cowboys to stupid truck drivers. Kurt Russell never repeated himself. At 60, when many people settled down, Russell embarked on a new chapter with Quentin Tarantino. Death Proof, 2007, The Hateful Eight, 2015, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019. He never sought to change who he was. He just showed up and won over audiences with an honesty that never asked for attention. At the age of 67, he donned the red hat and became Santa Claus in The Christmas Chronicles, not the traditional jolly Santa, but a weathered man with a past filled with flaws, but still believing in goodness. He had played quiet narrators, bounty hunters, and killers. None of these roles made him lovable, but they all made him unforgettable. "I'm not a great actor," Kurt Russell once observed, describing himself as a man who never sought perfection, but was always just enough for others to believe in. For more than 60 years, he has never needed the title of star. "I'm just a guy who picks the right roles at the right time," he said, but only a great actor would truly live up to that statement. In a career where Kurt Russell never pursued fame, his private life also revealed no signs of a man hungry for romance. He only had to show up, and the audience stayed not for the looks, not for the hype, but because every character he played had something incredibly real, deeply human, and subtly moving, and you can't act. However, it wasn't without memorable love stories. If one had assumed that a good-looking, well-known man in the center of Hollywood would have a list of lovers as long as a summer blockbuster script, Kurt Russell's life revealed a different picture. He had only 2 public relationships and 1 lifelong love. In 1979, while playing Elvis Presley in the television biopic Elvis, Kurt Russell not only had a career breakthrough, but also met Susan, the first woman who made him fall in love and think about starting a family. Hubley, the actress who portrayed Priscilla Presley, and Elvis Presley clicked right away on set, and their affections seemed to shine through the camera in the emotionally charged scenes between the two. They were married in the same year, as Kurt's career was changing from that of a teenage idol to that of a mature leading man, and they welcomed their son, Boston Russell, into the world in 1980. The marriage, however, did not endure as their differences became more apparent as the post-Elvis focus dimmed. Kurt immersed himself into film work. Their distance from one another grew in a rapidly changing environment. They quietly separated in 1983. In 1983, Kurt Russell reconnected with Goldie Hawn, the woman he had previously worked with 17 years prior in the one and only genuine original family band, 1966, while filming Swing Shift. something that would last. There was no drama, no lawsuits, and no public blame. Goldie was 21, and Kurt was 16 at the time, and she thought he was cute, but too young. 17 years later, they were different people, older, famous, and had experienced one heartbreak each, but they still had the same mischievous spark in their eyes. Their reunion came as a complete surprise when Kurt made a daring remark about Goldie's figure during the audition. That night, they went out swinging dancing at a Playboy club, and later, when they couldn't find a private place, Goldie invited Kurt to her house, which was still under renovation, and they climbed through a window, put on some music, and danced again. It was blunt, unfiltered, and utterly honest, but instead of taking offense, Goldie burst out laughing. Kurt and Goldie had lived together as husband and wife since 1983, without ever getting married. And to them, no document could bind what they had already decided to voluntarily preserve every single day. The night ended with the police arriving, but a new love had begun. Kurt wasn't just Goldie's partner. When Gold's ex-husband, Bill Hudson, vanished from their lives, Kurt quietly filled the void by becoming a second father to her 2 children from a previous marriage, Oliver and Kate Hudson. "He entered my life when I was a child," said Oliver, "and loved me the way a real father should." In 1986, Kurt and Goldie welcomed their only biological child, Wyatt Russell, who would go on to become a respected actor himself, starring alongside his own father in films such as The Falcon and The Winter Soldier, Under the Banner of Heaven. Kate Hudson refers to him as Pa, as though no one else ever held that place in her heart. Unlike most celebrity couples, Goldie and Kurt have never clung to one another over the course of 4 decades. They have never engaged in excessive PDA on social media or used marriage as a publicity stunt. Instead, they have lived on a ranch in Colorado with kids and grandchildren, occasionally working on movies together, and exchanging glances that seem to say, "We choose to stay every day. We don't need a wedding," Goldie once remarked. In front of their family, fans, and the media, Kurt Russell told Goldie, "To you I owe my wonderful life," during his Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony. There's nothing more romantic than waking up every morning, looking at that person, and still wanting to be there. Kurt Russell had only 2 public relationships, and 1 lasting love. A man who knows how to control himself, a man who knows who he is and who he calls home, is something that is uncommon in a world like Hollywood. Kurt Russell chose one woman, and continued to choose her every day for more than 40 years. Despite the fact that there were no models, 20-something stars, or leaked photos. At 73, after more than 60 years in the film business, Kurt Russell no longer makes as many appearances on screen as he once did, but he has never formally announced his retirement. If his career made him a legend on screen, then this quiet, unwavering love is what made him beloved in real life more than any role he ever played. Today, Kurt Russell lives mostly with Goldie Hawn on their ranch in Aspen, Colorado, a sprawling estate of several hundred acres where they have spent more than 30 years together. He only takes on roles that make him feel something, and if nothing moves him, he is perfectly happy staying at home, raising grandchildren, planting trees, making wine, hunting, and living the life of a true American mountain man. Although the house lacks the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, it has all the necessities, including a small wine cellar stocked with Goy wines, a wine brand Russell personally founded in 2008 and named after a nickname he had as a child. Russell is in charge of everything, from the grape selection to the aging process and flavor profile. Russell and Goldie raise livestock, supply organic beef from their own ranch, and lead a nearly self-sufficient lifestyle. Few people know that Russell doesn't use celebrity endorsements to promote Goy wines. Instead, he lets the wine speak for itself. His Pinot Noir and Chardonnay are now served in more than 100 upscale restaurants across the U.S., with prices ranging from $50 to $75 per bottle. The man who chops wood and drives a pickup down a dirt road has a net worth estimated at over $100 million, which may surprise outsiders. Previously, he owned properties such as a Malibu villa that sold for $9.5 million and a Manhattan penthouse that was purchased for $3.8 million and decorated in Southeast Asian style. Despite having homes in Vancouver and Palm Springs, as well as a collection of vintage cars that includes a Pontiac Firebird, Audi 8 Shelby Mustang, and Ferrari California, as well as a private pilot's license, a passion that was passed down from his grandfather, a civilian aviator, Russell avoids social media, posting no personal updates, talk shows, or commentary on the field to which he has dedicated more than half a century. He didn't make a comeback to the big screen until 2023-2024, when he co-starred with his son, Wyatt Russell, in Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. The film's subliminal message was that, despite the passage of time, legacy endures, and Russell won a Critics' Choice Super Award for his performance, which was praised for being as natural as breathing. Then, in early 2024, fans were shaken by rumors that Kurt Russell had Peutter's syndrome, a rare genetic condition that increases the risk of gastrointestinal cancer. Online outlets claimed that he had lesions around his mouth, calling them precancerous signs, and even implied that Goldie Hawn was planning to leave to avoid watching him decline. Perhaps this is because he no longer needs to prove anything at this point. He acts only to finish what's left unfinished. Goldie Hawn clarified in a brief interview with People magazine that the couple's close friends and family spoke out after the rumors quickly spread, with some tabloids even printing headlines like "Goldie Hawn says goodbye to Kurt Russell," leading many to believe that their 40-year relationship was about to end. A close family representative also confirmed that Kurt Russell was in excellent health, still hunting, still making wine, and still filming Monarch: Legacy of Monsters with his son as planned. Recent pictures showed him looking alert and fit, holding hands with Goldie at family get-togethers, living proof that he is far from fading. "I don't know who they're talking about, but it's definitely not us. We're still here together and going nowhere." And Goldie Hawn never left his side. Maybe their steady, calm lifestyle, complete with no dramatic outbursts or media spectacles, is the best defense against rumors, because if their love has lasted 40 years without a marriage license, then unfounded rumors are hardly a threat. No one would guess that a man worth tens of millions of dollars, with vintage cars, planes, and properties all over the continent, would choose to live like an ordinary man in a snow-covered forest. Instead, he and Goldie help raise 8 grandchildren, host family dinners away from cameras and headlines, grill the meat himself, fix the fences, mow the lawn, and plant flowers. That may be the most beautiful picture of Kurt Russell, though, because he never needed to look like a legend. He doesn't use his career to relive the past, or his wealth to prove his status. Instead, he lives a quiet life as a well-earned reward for a life spent doing what he believes in, loving the right person, and remaining true to himself until the end. The world will never forget Kurt Russell, who has established himself as one of Hollywood's most resilient and reliable actors, with more than 60 years of unwavering dedication to film. It's not the one on screen, but the one who walks away from the camera into a fading, snowy forest, choosing to keep living as though no one is watching. He built his career on discipline, a variety of roles, and a working style that won the complete trust of directors and co-stars alike. To remain relevant for over 60 years without making a splash is a rare accomplishment in Hollywood, where fame can come and go in an instant. He didn't become famous through gaudy public relations campaigns or dramatic headlines. Kurt Russell has made performances that have had a lasting influence on contemporary film. Despite not being a frequent guest at major award shows, The Thing, Escape from New York, Tombstone, Miracle, and Death Proof are just a few of the films that not only demonstrated his extraordinary versatility, but also became ingrained in the collective memory of several generations of moviegoers. As directors like Quentin Tarantino and John Carpenter have said time and time again, Russell is the actor you call when you need a character no one else can convincingly embody. In contrast to many of his contemporaries, Russell never centered his public persona on titles or awards, and he maintained a low profile in his personal life. No scandals, no social media. His influence goes far beyond the movie set, though, as he became a powerful source of inspiration for his son Wyatt Russell, who is now blazing his own trail in the industry. Every time he stepped onto the screen, viewers sensed a quiet strength, depth, and professional integrity. For this reason, he was frequently given the anchor roles, the characters the audience must believe in from the first frame. Director Quentin Tarantino once claimed that he wrote the part of Mike McKay in Death Proof especially for Kurt Russell, because there are roles no one else can play if it's not him. Kurt is seen by younger actors as a representation of the old-school professional, not flamboyant, not trend-chasing, just quietly and consistently doing the work with sincerity and care. Actress Kate Hudson, who is Goldie Hawn's daughter, always refers to him as P and said, "I grew up with a father who never spoke about greatness, but showed me every day what it means to be a good person." Kurt Russell's legacy isn't centered on golden trophies on a shelf. Rather, it's rooted in the quiet but enduring trust that both industry insiders and audiences have in him. If you grew up watching Kurt Russell's films, if you ever smiled when you saw him play Santa Claus, or if you ever felt a knot in your stomach when he drove across a desert to find his wife, please leave a comment below. He is a living example of the power of consistency, work ethic, and a way of life that doesn't demand attention, but always earns respect in a world often driven by fleeting hype. Please let us know that there are still a lot of people who have loved and admired him. If you like stories like this, please follow our channel to learn about more amazing lives and the surprising stories that go along with them. Please hit like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the amazing content we have in store for you.